All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everyone out there. January 3rd, we got a 9-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays, like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to my final plays absolutely free, so that I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, that'll be down in the pinned comment. In terms of how we did yesterday, yes, it looks like a nice 4-3 night. We hit a bunch of plus money plays. Unfortunately, the ones we lost were actually bigger unit amounts, right? Brook Lopez over in threes, DeAndre Ayton over in points, and then that parlay with the Celtics and Bucks money line. We did sweat that one out, but those are all half unit plays. A bunch of the winners, we had 4 winners last night, 3 of them being just quarter unit plays. So unfortunately, we lose a little bit off the top. We had a lot of good reads, but we didn't manage the units correctly, you know what I mean? I wish I had half units on the winners and quarter units on the losers, but the Pacers money line, loved that one, only put a half unit on it for plus money. Drew Holiday, we split a half unit, so a quarter unit on his assists for plus money and his points plus assists for plus money. That one cashed really early. And then the next Bucks over 221.5, we did have to sweat that one out, but again, that was a plus money. That was at least a half unit there, but I just wanted to be transparent that that's going to look a little bit better than it actually is. It's not bad, but it's going to look a little bit better than it actually is. In terms of the ride of the day, let's pump in some damn crowd noise for this one, and we'll drop the soundboard cha-ching there for Ryan. Julius Randle over 30.5 PRA. The man almost did it in points. Julius Randle always seems to crush the Celtics, and he was a main reason why that game was so close last night, because Anthony Edwards did not have the best game. But the ride of the day cashes for Ryan. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it is simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. I give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. Give you a shout out on my X/Twitter at FGuyBoston, and you get a shout out by the final plays over on the Guy Boston Sports site. If you win, we continue to ride with your plays. By the way, there is the Twitter if you guys do want to follow it. If you win, we continue to ride with your play. If you lose, you got to face the womp womp. We got to talk about it, but you still get the shout out. So we're looking forward to seeing what Ryan drops tonight. Again, it's got to be inside -150 to qualify, but what do you say we go ahead and dive into this slate? Make sure you guys are hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button. Appreciate the heck out of you guys for just the crazy support for the last couple days starting the year. Like, truly do appreciate it. We got tons of NFL content coming out in the next couple days as well. So let's go ahead and dive into some NBA, though. We're starting off with what I would consider not the sexiest matchup on the board. There are a couple of these games where I'm not loving it today, but still do have a couple looks in this one. Looking at Detroit taking on Charlotte. Immediately we jump to the injury report because it's pretty lengthy and meaningful, I guess. Is lengthy a word? It is now. Pretty meaningful for Charlotte. Both LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller listed as game time decisions. That is not a probable or doubtful. It's right there in the middle, which sometimes is just the worst place to be because we're kind of in limbo, but don't know if those two guys are playing. You also have Trey Mann listed as out, and then we also see Cody Martin listed as a game time decision. Not much on the Detroit side of things in terms of question marks, but Simone Fontecchio listed as out and Jaden Ivey listed as out. So a couple key pieces for both of these squads, I would say. Obviously, LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Jaden Ivey being the biggest pieces, said to be missed in this game. If LaMelo and Brandon Miller don't play, there's no real way that I want to sit here and look at, Charlotte. So I guess I'll lean towards Detroit minus the points, but I don't necessarily mind an over in this game. Again, I don't think I touch it if we do see both of those guys out. Jaden Ivey, we know, is out. That's obviously a point scorer on the Detroit side of things. We'll have to eat that one. But if Brendan Miller or LaMelo play, one of the two, I don't mind the over 217. I'll tell you why, because these are two teams that have actually been fairly decent at preventing points in the paint so far this season. Not necessarily at the rim, but in the paint as a whole. But where they do struggle defensively is defending the perimeter. And so far in the last 10 games, you do have Charlotte and Detroit tied for shooting the 8th most above the break threes in terms of frequency. So if these two teams are going to chuck a lot of threes and both teams are not very good at defending the three-point line, I could see this going over 217. So I will lean in that direction. My one concern is that neither one of these squads have been like a big over team this year. Charlotte hitting the over in just 37.5% of their games. Detroit 53.1%. but they're both top half in terms of pace in the last 10 games. So maybe that's the bright side. But again, it's going to take a few guys being ruled in versus out for us to even touch this one. And same thing from a player prop perspective. I don't mind looking at Brandon Miller or LaMelo or Cade Cunningham, but I do want to, in terms of hitting threes or maybe points, because those are where those perimeter points are going to come from. Maybe we take a peek at Tim Hardaway Jr., no Jaden Ivey. He may have a few more attempts. That's something to consider there. But in terms of the Charlotte side of things, I don't necessarily love the idea of rushing to anything without knowing who's in, who's out. But yeah, maybe Tim Hardaway Jr. or Cade Cunningham from a points perspective, because we do know at least that they're playing. All right, Toronto taking on Orlando. Now, you're going to kind of hate my take on this one, and it's going to be like I'm kind of waiting out this Toronto team because what we saw, so Emmanuel quickly came back. It wasn't really like on anyone's radar, but they were on a second leg of a back-to-back a couple days ago. That gives, obviously, you don't have to announce the injuries and whatnot as quickly or as early. So he comes back and he plays against Brooklyn, and this Toronto team goes out there and scores 130 on Brooklyn, right? Now, they've had some high-paced games recently and high-scoring games, but quickly is a game changer for this Toronto team. Like, he's a very good player, right? He comes back from injury and scores 21 points. I believe he had a plus-minus of 20, plus 23. He had 15 assists. So, yeah, one guy is kind of having me, not going to lie, having me scratch my head about this entire team because... Or is he that big of a game changer? I mean, they have quickly RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Pirtle. They have Grady Dick to hit threes. All of a sudden, you put him in the mix, and it doesn't seem like it's that bad of a team, especially at home. This Toronto team at home this year is 70.6% against the number and 66.7 to the total. So I will take the underdog here, Toronto, but I don't know if I'm racing there and trying to, listen to how I'm talking about Emmanuel quickly. You think he's Superman the way that I'm hyping him up, right? So I'm trying to bide time here, not necessarily be like over infatuated. Whoa, he's back and he's so good. It's like sometimes because players are out for a while, they come back and have a good game. We get in our heads being like, wow, he's such a game changer. I do really like him a lot, but like I might be overhyping, right? So I'm really trying to be patient with this one. I don't love the idea of betting Orlando. I'll tell you that. I've said that for weeks now due to their injuries. And sure, they will beat some teams and have some good games. But to me, this is probably Toronto or nothing. And I think ultimately, that's why I said you're going to hate it. It's probably ultimately going to be a nothing play. I don't mind Toronto team total over. I think that they're going to run with some pace. And this Orlando team, while they are a very good defense, right? Like I think Toronto's offense is going to look a little bit better. So unfortunately, I don't have the strongest of opinion or confident plays in this one, but like I tell you guys all the time, not going to fake confidence for content. I'll take Toronto and their team total over solely because they're finally getting healthy. And even now, as I'm refreshing, looking at the injury report, RJ Barrett listed as a game time decision. So boom, there's some wind out of my sails. We'll see how the injury report plays out, but I don't think that I can get to Orlando. It's going to be Toronto or nothing here, and maybe a Toronto team total. But I'll tell you, speaking of confidence, I don't have to fake confidence in this one. Victor Wembanyama, 0.5 points over on Sleeper Picks today, guys. That's not even the best deal you're getting, but we'll talk about that first. You use the link in the description or the pinned comment. I'll put it in both places. You're going to get a Victor Wembanyama square over on Sleeper Picks for 0.5 points. His normal line is at 24.5. Obviously, he's going to go out there and drop a bucket. This kid is showing why he has been so highly touted and revered, right? So Victor Wembanyama, 0.5 points. You're going to get that square. What I think the best deal on Sleeper right now is truly their Play 5, get $55. You are putting down a $5 entry, right? Just $5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I can count. I'm a math whiz. You get $55 back in return. You 11x your money without even having to win or lose. If you win, you still get the payout from that $5 entry, and you get the additional 55. It's a no-brainer. If Sleeper Picks is available in your state and you're not on it yet, you are seriously missing out. What I love about them, and I tell you guys all the time because I've used this app for over 2 years, right? What I love about them is that each and every play you throw into your entry, they have dynamic multipliers. So they change the payout. It's not an app that follows a fixed payout structure like 2 for 2 is 3x, 3 for 3 is 5x. No. You could literally win up to, I think they might have just launched 1,000. I know you can win up to 100x, but I think for the holiday times, you can go up to 1,000 extra money. I say that with a whisper because I don't know if that's live yet, but nonetheless, guys, Play 5, get 55 is an unbelievable deal. Go ahead and check out Sleeper Picks. That link will be in the description as well as the pinned comment. Do not miss this. I don't know how long they're going to run this for, but that is the best deal they've ever dropped in my opinion. So go ahead and check out Sleeper Picks. Let's jump back into these games. All right, next up we have OKC taking on New York. This has got to be one of the better games on tonight, right? Now, I will say OKC is coming off of a back-to-back here. They just took on the Clippers yesterday, and they ended up winning 116-98. Some key pieces here would be that Shea only played 30 minutes, and I say only, but yes, only played 30 minutes. Lou Dort, 23 minutes. Williams, 29 minutes. Isaiah Hartenstein, only 23 minutes. Wiggins, 28. Not a lot of minutes played because they did end up winning 116-98, so that's good news for OKC, and they are at home. New York's coming off of a win against Utah, and they've won 9 straight games, and during that stretch, they're 7-2 against the number. So this team is playing very, very well, and this graphic says -5 that we have, right? That's since moved, even since us creating it. It's actually 4.5 right now. So a lot of people, I think, coming in on the Knicks, which I do understand. I just don't know if I can fully get there. Like I see the lane to the Knicks, and I hate to sit here and be like, oh, this OKC team, at home, they're just the better team. But like, to me, that's my rationale. Like, they are at home, and they are still just right now in this moment are the better team to me. And you look at how this Knicks team is going to want to score. They're shooting a ton of corner threes, which, yes, OKC isn't the best at preventing corner threes, but they don't really allow you to hit many above the break threes. That hasn't been New York style. Where New York has been really scoring a lot of is in the restricted area. This season, 5th most points in the paint, right? Over the last 3 games, 2nd most points in the paint. And over the last 10 games, shooting the 4th most in terms of frequency in the paint. But OKC, the number 1 team this season at preventing points in the paint. They also do cover the perimeter well overall. So it's almost like, yeah, I see the Knicks being able to compete in this game, but when push comes to shove, does the OKC defense step up and make plays? And that's kind of where my head's at. So I don't want to talk anyone off of a New York Knicks ticket or anything like that, but to me, this line's gone down to 4.5, which just visually looks a lot better than -5.5. Give me OKC, but again, I really don't want to talk anyone off of what we have here from the Knicks side of things. Where I would also like to potentially look is an under. I mean, this Knicks defense has gotten a lot better. We see a ton of mid-range shots lately from the Thunder, and the Knicks have been ridiculously good at covering the mid-range, so that takes away one of, I guess you could say, the good spots for the Thunder. But at the same time, the Knicks, where they have struggled defensively, it's funny because it's kind of inverse as to like the first month of the season. They've struggled at covering the perimeter, which OKC's definitely started to take a lot more threes. So you can make arguments for both the over and the under. I get it. I think that I'm pretty solid on this OKC spot, but not trying to talk anyone off of it, as well as the under. I think defense will kind of show up here in this one, and mainly OKC's defense. So that's going to be a look there. In terms of player props, one spot that I would consider is potentially looking at Karl-Anthony Towns over in rebounds. We've seen a lot of guys be able to hit crazy rebound numbers against this Thunder team, and Towns' rebounds line is only at 13.5. Me saying only 13.5 sounds kind of crazy. I get it, but the dude has had so many like 20-plus rebound games. I mean, he's had like 3 20-plus rebound games, but he's had so many 14, 15, 16, 17 rebound games this year that it's pretty damn crazy. Last few times he's played the Thunder, he definitely has come up short of this number, but overall, that was, obviously back with a different team. That was last season. He's averaging just under 10 rebounds per game in the last 4 meetings there, but 14 rebound chances, right? So obviously that's a little bit less. The dude's averaging 21 rebound chances, 6 more rebound chances than he was last season against the Thunder. This season, he's averaging 14. In his last 10 games here, he's averaging 25 rebound chances. So this is not the best rebounding team on the Thunder or anything like that. So I think that, Towns could kind of get going here. So I like his rebounds. I would consider his points and rebounds, but at some point, because obviously his main stat is his rebounds, but at some point, like, he's got to come back down to earth, right? Or does he? I mean, the dude over his last 5 games, or his last 3 games, ready? 44 points plus rebounds, 45 points plus rebounds, and 52 points plus rebounds. He's had 13 or more rebounds in 3 games and 30 plus points in his last 3 games. So that's where I would look, but I just hope that we're not jumping on this bandwagon too late in terms of his rebounds. All right, Celtics taking on Houston. Really good game last night. We're going to want to keep an eye on the injury report. Jaylen Brown didn't play last night, nor did Kristaps Porzingis, but now they're projected in the starting lineup, so hopefully they are playing on the second leg of a back-to-back here. Amen Thompson, I believe I don't know if his 2-game suspension is up. I think I think he's still serving his next game, so he's out for Houston. And then Eason looks like he's going to be doubtful there. So obviously, the major injuries would be taking a peek there at the Celtics one. This is a tough one because the Celtics obviously are on a back-to-back, and any way you want to dice up the Celtics this season, they don't look all that great against the spread. The weird thing is that on a back-to-back, they've actually covered in 60% of games. Like if you want to look at their trends, like whether it's this year against the number, home away against the number, rest advantage against the number, like the only thing that's really positive against the number for the Celtics is on a back-to-back. So I'm sitting there being like, okay, that's interesting. Houston with a rest advantage, though, 85% of their games they have covered. So this is a tough one. I think ultimately the way the Celtics played last night shows that this team can get going and get going quick. And this is a Houston team that's not similar to the Timberwolves as a whole, but similar to the Timberwolves in how they play the perimeter. And I think the Celtics can do exactly what they did last night. You know, they started cold from three, and then all of a sudden it's like we have just too many guys that can make three, especially if Brown and Porzingis comes back. So I'm going to lean towards the Celtics minus the 3 points. Yes, I'm a Celtics fan. Yes, the channel name is Guy Boston Sports, but I still do think that just because the Celtics has been playing less than what they should be, less than, I guess above par in a sense, basketball, it's like, we can't forget how good this squad is, right? They've only won 5 of their last 10 games. They're 2-3 in their last 5. I understand that. But let's not forget that Houston also hasn't been like this dominant team. They lost to Minnesota, a team that the Celtics just beat. It was close, but the Celtics beat. And then they lost to Miami outright. They were at home as 8.5-point favorites. Like, I just don't think that this Houston team is necessarily built to beat the Celtics. In the last 10 games that they've played, the Celtics 7-3 against this Houston team as well. In the last 8, 7-1, if we want to make it a little bit smaller. So maybe it's the homer in me, but give me the Celtics minus the 3 points. If this was like 6.5, I would honestly consider Houston. So I'm not saying the Celtics run away with this. I just think 3 points just seems like it's a little bit too little to give the Celtics. Now, one thing I will note, not to ramble on here, but to completely ramble on, is that the Celtics team, they aren't a back-to-back, and we've already seen Jason Tatum scratch real late because of illness one time. Like, be careful with this one because, yes, they just beat the Timberwolves. It was a close game, heart-throbbing game, right? And they're on the road. Like, do they necessarily need to jump to making sure that, they get everyone to play in this one? I don't think so. They have the Thunder coming up. They have Denver coming up also on this road trip in a couple days. So it's like, yeah, they'll probably be careful. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, oh, Jaylen Brown's playing. Yes, let's go. And then all of a sudden, Jason Tatum's like out with an illness. Something like that. They can get weird on a back-to-back. In terms of what we have from a total here, now obviously Houston's a very good defensive team, as is Boston, but I don't really see where Houston, I don't see where Houston's going to totally prevent the Celtics from scoring. And the one thing that Houston does well is being able to score in the paint, right? 7th most points in the paint so far this year. We know that's the Celtics sort of issue defensively on the season. They've gotten better at it, but still their issues. So I like an over 221. The Celtics are on a back-to-back, like I said, in 60% of their back-to-backs this season. They have hit the over. Houston, not necessarily the fastest-paced team, nor the Celtics, but I think the Celtics shooting the threes, they should be able to, trump Houston's perimeter defense, even though it's good. But Houston trying to take it into the paint, they should be able to get some buckets on the Celtics team and kind of up the tempo here. From a player prop perspective, I obviously want to see if we have, Jaylen Brown or Porzingis or both playing. So that's going to kind of delay things on the Celtics side of things. But from a Houston perspective, I don't mind, Alperen Sengun here having somewhat of a decent game, maybe even Jalen Green. These guys that do like to get into the paint for Houston, I like the spot. Now, I like Jabari Smith Jr., but I don't know how much we can play with fire, right? We crushed his over in points last time. Do we go back to that? I'm not sure. But those 3 guys could be considerations in terms of scoring, maybe some same game parlay elements as well. All right, New Orleans taking on Washington. Honestly, a game that I really want no part of here. Sadiq Bey, Coulibaly, and Marvin Bagley all out for Washington. On the Pelicans side of things, Brandon Ingram, Zion still out. Alvarado is listed as a game-time decision. This is a huge number for the Pelicans, but obviously Washington is just a really bad team. It makes sense now. They are coming off of a, I guess you could give them credit. They're coming off a win against Chicago. New Orleans 0-10 in their last 10. This is, maybe Pelicans just because I don't think Washington wins 2 games in a row and the Pelicans are so due, but man, oh man, I do not think that I'm touching this game. Total sitting at 232, sure, I'll lean towards an over. You have 2 really bad defenses in this one, the 29th defensive efficiency team and the 28th ranked defensive efficiency team. Pelicans in the over, I don't think I'm touching this one. You are absolute psycho if you love this game out of all the games on the board today. But I will say, if you're a psycho and rolling with this one, I love you more for it. You got some cojones. All right, moving on to Dallas and Cleveland. Dallas at home, 7-point dogs. Cleveland obviously still proving to be one of the best teams in the league, right? 9-1 in their last 10 games, 7-3 against the number. Dallas just 4-6. They've lost 3 straight games. They are back home though, 4 straight games on the road. Gotta be good to feel back at home. They are a better home team, but you look at Cleveland, it's like they're great at home. They're great on the road. They only have 4 losses on the year, right? So it's like, okay, what are we going to make of that? One thing that I will mention here is that Dallas is really good at preventing points on the perimeter, which is where Cleveland likes to score from. Cleveland, 4th in frequency in the last 10 games of above the break threes, 3rd in corner threes over the last 10 games. Dallas, 5th in terms of points allowed from 3 on the season, 1st at home this year, and then 1st in their last 3 games. So I don't think Cleveland has the easiest time scoring, at least on the perimeter. You flip it over or look at the points in the paint. Yes, Cleveland doesn't like frequent the paint as much, but still scoring a decent amount in the paint, and that's where Dallas has struggled. 22nd in terms of preventing points in the paint, 20th over the last 3 games, 18th at home. So I do think Cleveland ultimately does get theirs, but it's going to come in the paint. It's not going to come from the perimeter. So immediately, before we even get into the spread or the total, I would say I'd look at guys like Evan Mobley in terms of him being able to score. Jared Allen as well. Jared Allen actually could be a really good look. Last 2 games against Dallas, 24 points, 19 points on the season. He's hit the over 13.5 in 50% of his games on the road, 47%. But if we dwindle it down and start looking at maybe his last 5 games on the road, or last 3, right? Last 3 games on the road, 20, 12, and 27. So the dude is getting going. One spot that may be good to look at is, I already mentioned Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Jared Allen's line at 13.5, maybe moving it to 10 plus on a same game parlay. Evan Mobley's at 18.5, maybe moving him to 15 plus and putting him in a same game parlay. Both of them have a reduced line, but now the odds could be kind of favorable, or at least in our favor there to get that going, because I do think that this is the way that Cleveland scores tonight. But in terms of where we do go to from a spread perspective, I do think that this is a game where Dallas could probably keep it close, but I don't see the closing ability of them against this Cleveland team. Luka Doncic, I haven't even mentioned it, but he has been out, and he is still out, right? No Najee Marshall still. PJ Washington's now a game-time decision. Maxi Kleber game-time decision. Dante Exum out. There is a lot of banged-up guys here for Dallas, and I think if PJ Washington's out, that's even going to hurt them defensively even more. So, yeah, I'm going to look at Cleveland here, minus the 7 points. But I do kind of have that in the back of my head that Dallas could somewhat keep this game relatively close. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, if they keep it close, 7 points is a heck of a lot to keep in your back pockets there. So I just think that Cleveland kind of closes this one out late in the game because, again, when you think about how a game can be closed out, this game could be close. It's not like Cleveland's going to be running down the court chucking threes, or at least via what I have in my breakdown here, they shouldn't be. So if they can start getting some easy layups at the end of the game, it's kind of like putting your thumb on the game and twisting, And one thing I'll mention too, Cleveland, one of the best defensive teams over the last 10 games at the mid-range. Dallas shooting, there's only like 2 teams in the league shooting more mid-range shots over the last 10 games than them. So yeah, give me Cleveland minus the 7 points, and I think I'll lean towards the under, but maybe a Dallas team total under. That way, this can still be a close enough game. We don't have to worry about the +3, -3, whatever. If it's a lowish scoring game, at least we're relying on Cleveland's defense, which I do think kind of fits the bill a little bit against this Dallas squad. So maybe that's the direction we go in, or just a full game under as well. We got crazy 7s. Look at that. 3 games in a row. 7, 7, 7 in terms of the spread of the Pelicans and Washington game, the Dallas and the Cavs game, and then the Denver and San Antonio game, which we are here at right now. Again, go check out Sleeper. They got that Wemby square. That link will be in the pinned comment and the description. So you have Denver here, 7-point favorites over a Spurs team that the Spurs have been, I would say, somewhat hard to read this year, right? They'll be playing really well, and then all of a sudden they'll go on a streak where they don't look all that tremendous. They still have covered in 7 of their last 10 games. I'll give them credit, but Denver's starting to kind of piece it together. At the same time, I will say 3 games in a row, Detroit, Utah, and then I give them credit for the Atlanta one. They won by 19 points, and I actually kind of liked Atlanta in that spot, right? So I think that they're starting to kind of piece it together, but it's not like they've had the craziest of obviously strength of schedule. And maybe it's because of, I guess, the change that they've been playing a little bit better. Russell Westbrook's getting the start at point guard, meaning they can kind of move Jamal Murray off the ball. Then Brown, Porter, and Jokic make up the front court. So maybe that's a decent change, obviously, with Aaron Gordon out here for them. And I do think, obviously, when you have guys like Murray and Jokic and then Porter and then the veteranness of Russell Westbrook, like this is a team that will piece things together. 6.5 points just seems like it's a little bit too much to me, though, right? This San Antonio team has been pretty decent this year defensively, defending the paint, which is where Denver's going to want to shoot from, but also the three-point line. So it's not like I think they go off from there. So I think 7 points is just a tad bit too much. Do I think Denver wins this game? I do. I think it's going to be by anywhere from like 2 to 6 points, though, obviously, if I like San Antonio plus the points. So, yeah, I'm going to lean in that direction. One thing that I will say is that San Antonio, if they get their three ball going, they can definitely beat this Denver team on the perimeter. This Denver team has not been all that great on the perimeter so far this year. If they want to get it to the mid-range, which they do shoot at a top 10 clip over the last 10 games, they'll be able to score on this Denver team. Denver's not very good at covering the mid-range. So players that we could consider there, Devin Vassell. I don't have his updated line. We could find that really quickly. Devin Vassell is going to obviously give you some perimeter shots. Yeah, we don't have his lines out just yet, but something to note, he's going to give you those perimeter shots, as well as he leads over the last 10 games, leads the team in mid-range shots overall. Chris Paul could be another guy to kind of consider for those mid-range shots, but he's obviously not always going to look to score. But yeah, I trust this San Antonio defense a little bit here against Denver. Now, they haven't played this season, but last time they did play, San Antonio won 121 to 120. They were 11.5-point dogs. Again, way different. That was in April of last year. I don't want to put too much stock into that, but just saying, right? In terms of guys that played in that one, we did see Murray, we did see Porter, we did see Jokic. Wembanyama had 34 and 12 in that one. So he played in 36 minutes, 34 and 12. So maybe he's got a little bit of a good spot here against this Denver team as well. But his lines to me are always he's got like the Wembanyama tax in a sense. You know what I mean? It's like the books know that he's going to get a lot of plays on him, so they raise that line. But rightfully so. It's at 26.5 right now, and he's been crushing that. So I think I might look at Devin Vassell, but it really depends on what his numbers come out at. I've already kind of mentioned where I would go with a total here. I don't mind an under because I think San Antonio, if they do keep this game close, it's because they sort of slowed Denver down and also made it tough for them to score. So I think this could be a low-scoring game where Denver wins by, less than 7 points. San Antonio covers, but Denver still pulls out the dub. Hey, by the way, guys, make sure to go check out the merch. I have the Just Bet It crew neck on right now. This stuff is great, great quality. Just do it. No. Just Bet It. We get tons of new merch over on the store. I'll put them in the merch bar right here on YouTube, so below the video, or I think it's in like the bottom left of the video for you if you do want to click it. It'll take you directly there. Go ahead and check it out. Tons of new stuff and great, great quality merch for the new year. If you do want to support us and also get some great merch at the same time, go ahead and check that out. All right, Sacramento taking on Memphis. Let's make a note here with the Do Not Bet graveyard. We do have potential revivals here for the Kings, as well as Domantas Sabonis here. Sabonis, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Do you think that we can revive him? Because he did have in his last game, 17 points and like 20 plus boards. The Kings, I still don't know if I loved what I saw out of them against the Sixers. I think that they could have lost that game, right? They were getting crushed, and then they had a massive fourth quarter. So let me know in the comments, Kings and Sabonis, do they deserve to be resurrected here and viable for final plays? If you guys don't know what the DNB graveyard is, essentially if you wrong us badly, like I'm considering putting Ayton in here, but we've only bet on him once. But if they wrong us badly, we put him in the Do Not Bet graveyard. We end up having a potential revival date for them in which at that time we can start to revisit it. It doesn't affect the leans. Like, for example, if I like Sacramento tonight, I'll tell you why I like them in that type of a thing. But overall, I'm not putting my hard-earned bread on them. You know what I mean? So, yeah, let me know if you think Sabonis should come back or the Kings. The Kings, I don't think so. They didn't cover against Philadelphia, and they should have lost that game. I'm still not ready. And for the record, they're on there in the main headstone because so far this year, we're literally down like just about 3 units alone on the Kings. We're positive on the NBA season. We'd be even more positive if we've never touched them. You know what I mean? So that's why they're there. Sabonis killed us 2 games in a row, but I think he might be ready to come back. Let me know in the comments what you think. Should we move him on? And is there anyone else that we have taken? I know you guys got your own DNB graveyards and DNB lists. Anyone that we've taken over and over again that should be in the graveyard that we can add. But nonetheless, let's talk about this game, all right? Comment DNB if you made it this far. DNB do not best. We got do not bet. The Sacramento Kings taking on Memphis. So in this spot, I started to think about, oh man, maybe we can get to Sacramento, right? At least as a lean, because they are good at defending the paint. Like, that's what I give them a lot of credit for. And Memphis loves to score in the paint. But one thing about Memphis is they're definitely capable and have been shooting a lot more threes, which is where Sacramento is just terrible. Second most three-pointers, points from three, I should say, allowed so far this season against them, which is obviously just terrible. And, they haven't been really taking it into the paint as much as I'd like to see them offensively, which that's how you get to this Memphis team, scoring in the paint. So I think I end up leaning towards the road dog here, Memphis plus the 4 points. In terms of what we're looking at from injuries, Zach Edey listed as questionable there. Ja Morant is out, so obviously that's why they're underdogs. But to me, this just kind of could scream a spot for a potential look at Desmond Bane, maybe his threes or his points plus assists, because he's going to attack the perimeter, right? I don't want a guy that's going to be taking it in against Sacramento and trying to score in the paint with the big guys. I want a guy that is able to hit the threes and that type of thing. So, couple of spots I'd look at would be Desmond Bane over 2.5 3-pointers made. Desmond Bane this year without Ja Morant, in terms of his 3-pointers made, let's see, he's hit it in 50% of his games, but in 3 straight games. So 4, 3, and 4 is what he's hit so far here in this season without Ja Morant, right? 2 shooting guards, Sacramento allowing a bottom, or at least allowing a top 10 amount of threes to them. And then I'd also look at his points. It's at 21.5, a little high for my liking, but he's definitely been playing decent and better as of late. And then points plus assists. You know the dude's going to have the ball. It's at 28.5. That's super, super high. I get it, but he's going to have the ball. So I would consider him, but I'm still considering Memphis, even with the Ja Morant injury. Could the Ja injury keep me off of it? Sure, but I'm just telling you the reasons why, being able to not necessarily score in the paint is okay with me in this one, because I think they can attack the perimeter against a bad Sacramento team. That's the reason why I'm not taking Sacramento, if that makes sense. In terms of what we have from a total, it's sitting at 238. I like the under a lot in this one. I already mentioned why I think that Sacramento could give Memphis trouble at scoring in the paint, which is their bread and butter. You flip it over to the Sacramento side of things, they aren't exactly the best scoring in the paint team. That, like I said, that's how you would attack the Grizzly team. They aren't even scoring a lot from three. Like, I don't necessarily see where points come from. And let's not sleep on the fact that Memphis, yes, Ja Morant, but are still a top 5 defensive efficiency team this year. So under 238 is definitely a spot that I would consider in this one as well. And that's kind of mixing in the idea that, yeah, I do think Sacramento could, play well, because if they do play well, I think that their defense kind of shows up today in this one. All right, Lakers at home taking on Atlanta. Lakers on a back-to-back. We had, obviously, the game last night, and we took DeAndre Ayton, and he had like the first 4 points of the game, and I was like, let's go. We're going to cash this one. Lakers end up winning 114-106. I told you that was probably a spot for the Portland Trailblazers to keep it close in a low-scoring game. Wish I took it myself, but I didn't have the cojones. But DeAndre Ayton finished with, 6 points? So, yeah, that stunk. Anthony Davis missed that game. I don't know if he's playing today or not. You also have Jalen Johnson and Trae Young listed as questionable for Atlanta. Jalen Johnson missed his previous game, so a lot of injuries to note here. A couple things that I would just touch on, assuming everyone's healthy. Give me Anthony Davis playing, give me Trae Young, give me Jalen Johnson, and we'll take this breakdown from there, right? This is a Lakers team that is going to want to score in the paint a ton. Atlanta was very good at that earlier in the year. They've kind of lacked in being able to stop that. So the Lakers should be able to score somewhat in the paint, especially if Anthony Davis plays. But on the flip side, this is an Atlanta team that loves to score in the paint as well, and the Lakers have been even worse. I mean, the Lakers have been terrible at preventing points in the paint so far this season, so I think Atlanta can go in there and get theirs as well, so I don't mind an over in this spot. I think Atlanta could keep this game close / win it out right now. I kind of had that feeling when they played Denver in Denver, and they lost by 19, right? So take it for what it's worth, but I think Atlanta is the move here, plus 3.5. I like Jalen Johnson to score if he does play as well. And I don't mind the over, so that's kind of how I'd be rolling here. If Anthony Davis plays, I think that's going to be a huge factor for the Lakers. If he doesn't, I do think I end up liking Atlanta even more. But yeah, guys, this is going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you made it this far, go ahead and comment 33. Shout out to Larry Bird. Boom, 33 if you guys made it this far in the video. Happy Friday. Hopefully everyone's weekend is off to a good start by the time you're watching this. And we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.